Public Fiscal Administration. My report is about the 6 widely used budget setting approaches and techniques. They are incremental budgeting. The first one, incremental budgeting technique, uses historic income and expenditure data as a starting point. This data is usually acquired from the previous year's budget accounts or a combination of the two. The historic data is used as the basis to formulate the budget for the following year. It helps reflect the growth of the business and changes in the market. The budgeting technique gives no priority to vital activities of a business. We simply adjust last year's budget considering the inflation factor. Disadvantage of this is a quick and ano the advantage is it is a quick and easy method of preparing budget. It is also simple and mabilis. Kaya lang, the disadvantage is it is historic, doesn't consider any necessary future changes, assumes the base is accurate, and compounds historic errors. The second budgeting approach is the zero-based budgeting. It is the most recommended and popular technique, and it is linked to the business planning process. A zero-based budget assumes that all budgets are derived from first principles and that the organization can start the budget with a zero base. Magsisimula ka talaga sa zero. The budget is then based on the objects to be achieved in the time period without necessarily referring to the past. Zero-based budgeting is commonly used method. In zero-based budget, current year's budget is preferred from the scratch. Siyempre, zero nga eh. So, the preparation is from the scratch. Wala talaga. Without considering the budget of the previous year. The ranking for allocation of resources is on the basis of priority of all the activities of the business. The advantage is that this method is time consuming but it gives accurate results kasi nag-start ka sa zero kaya accurate ang magiging resulta nito. And then the number 3 budget approach is the cost limited budgeting. It is appropriate when a limit is set on total net expenditure. The manager must determine what can be delivered within this cost limit and create budget accordingly. This technique can be difficult to implement when the objectives of the business for that time period have been set without considering the cost limit. The budget can be set by implementing the following procedures. Number 1, identify the fixed cost, that is those that cannot be reduced. And then second, spread the balance of the budget across items which are flexible. This is the advantage also of this is quick. It provides incentive to increase savings. The disadvantage naman is services may have to decrease quality, quantity, or both to stay within the cash limit, not necessarily linked to business objective, which may include a need for change or development. In a flexible, it is not practical for demand-led statutory services. Number 4, budgeting technique is the resource-restricted budgeting. It is used when resources to be utilized by the business are restricted. Resource restriction will usually apply to staff, equipment, property, and finance. There are many reasons for restricting resources. For example, it may be beneficial for the whole organization to restrict staff numbers. This may be required because recruiting an additional full-time staff is an ongoing commitment that the organization may not be able to fulfill. Hence, restricting staffing resources is a common budget setting approach. It is also quick ang advantage niya. Ang disadvantage, Ganun din, kagaya sa cash limited, is inflexible. It is not practical for demand-led statutory services. Next is the activity-based budgeting. Activity-based budgeting is based on the cost of providing an activity or service. When the budget needs to be reduced or adjusted, each activity will need to be examined. A decision will be required as to which activity should be ceased or reduced. This method of budgeting is only possible if there are clear divisions between each activity to indicate clearly where resources are allocated. When resources are shared, such as staff, premises, and others, implementing the activity-based budget is difficult. Accurate resource allocation methods such as time change by staff allocating square footage and utility usage will be required. Ang advantage nito, it forms a base for unit costing, highlights the most expensive activities. Ang disadvantage naman niya, it is not practical for services where a flexible approach is required and or where resources need to be moved between activities in response to the demand. And also the resource allocation may not be accurate. The last one, the contingency budgeting technique uses a broad approach to budgeting. Contingency nga, no? Limited effort is used to establish estimates for each budget hearing. A contingency amounts provided to compensate for poor estimates, changes in demand, and insufficient resources. Contingency budget can be used flexibly across any of the budget headings. The level of the contingency will depend on an estimation of the risk of error within the budget. If it is considered that the budget has been calculated to an accuracy level of 80%, then a 20% contingency may be added to the budget. The advantages: quick, easy, and flexible. Disadvantage: inaccurate, insufficient thought given to linking service with finance, and difficult to monitor. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. By Dave Ramsey. It all ends my report. Thank you.